This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am sitting here at the Ritz-Carlton in Toronto with President and wine grower vigneron Anne Moller-Racke of Donum Estate and Robert Stemler Winery. How are you today?
Thank you. This is my first time to Toronto.
Your very first time? Fantastic.
My very first time.
Well, you've got it's just at the very beginning of spring, so a good time to join us. Now, for those of our viewers who are unfamiliar with your winery, please tell us a little bit about your history and how you came to be growing wine in California.
I came to California in '81. I'm a German and came to California to work a year, have a little bit of an adventure, and now it's 30 years later and I'm still in California and still actually in the same vineyard. So I kind of, like a grapevine, got my roots down in the Pinot Noirs region and have grown grapes and made wines there for the last 30 years, and it has been a life by now. So.
Now at Donum Estate and Robert Stemler, you specialise in mainly Pinot Noir with a little bit of Chardonnay. How did Pinot Noir become your passion?
I think because it just is so demanding and it is so vineyard driven. And when this project in 2001 started and I was asked to oversee it and drive it from the vineyard side, it really was a perfect match. Pinot I had started kind of focusing on Pinot Noir in the mid-90s, and so it really was a dream come true, and I think it continuously challenges me and it makes you pay attention. Pinot Noir is just more fickle as a variety. I always compare it. It's a little bit like a watercolor. It's more transparent. It wants to be treated well on all levels, starting in the vineyard as well as in the winery. And so it just is close to my heart.
Now, what would you say the defining characteristics of the house style of Donum Estate and Robert Stemler would be? What differentiates your wines from many of the other Carneros and Russian River Valley Pinot Noir?
I always look in my wines, that they have intensity. And I think when we defined it before, I want power and elegance. I do want it that it's varietal, that it doesn't seem like a Pinot on steroid, so that there is the elegance, but there is the seamlessness from the beautiful nose and perfume to a beautiful middle and textural component and a nice length and finish. I'm sure what I just described is what everybody in some ways would want to do, but that's what we are striving for, and I think often our wines do have that.
Now, how do you achieve that elegance? In California, how do you ensure that you're not making a Pinot Noir on steroids, because so many of them are?
I really try to ripen my fruit and not ripen it by dehydration, and so I really work with the canopies. I really work using my tools. One is irrigation in the vineyard. I call it's my gas pedal of how I can drive the plant and communicate kind of with it. Also of really creating evenness. And the part about in the vineyard is the grape doesn't want to be even. We as growers want it to be even so that it communicates in one voice. It's like an orchestra playing one tone. I mean, you think of that a grape has normally around 140 berries, and then within a ton or a half ton you have 5,000 clusters, 140 berries. How do you get all of those berries to be more or less having the same ripeness level? And that's where I think the work in the vineyard is so important in terms of how we thin, how we kind of take off. By watching the season evolve, the vintage is always the story in the bottle. One year you have larger berries because you have more seeds in the berry, or you have wings, or you have... And so by watching how flowering happens, how then veraison, which is the turning of color, how tight that period is, you use your tools in getting it to be that one voice, and therefore you don't have to go to the overripe to get that ripe characteristic. And that's, I think, for we working in the vineyard, and really we are not picking by numbers, by flavors, but making sure that those flavors are there uniformly.
Anne, I have one last question for you. What does the concept of good food, and wine is food, so good wine also, mean to you?
Well, it means like a perfect evening or lunch or day, right? It's something that it elevates, I think, the experience, and it's quality of life.
Well, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution. Really appreciate tasting both your Robert Stemmler wine and your Donum Estate wine, and we look forward to catching up with you in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.